Vedantic thought of the human personality, and we were discussing the classification of the human personality as the five sheaths or koshas as they are known. Kosha literally means sheath, but it should not be taken in the sense of coaxial sheaths, one covering the other, because they are interconnected with each other. For example, the Annamaya Kosh is pervaded by the Pranamaya Kosh. It's not strictly, in that sense, it's not just a covering, outer covering, inner covering. Sheath is normally like banana sheath. You you peel off one sheath and then the inner sheath is exposed. Then you uh, tear off one more sheath or remove one sheath, peel off one more sheath, and then you get it is not something similar to that. Those are physical sheaths. But here, just for convenience, they are known as koshas. But the technical word that Upanishad uses, Vedanta uses, is sharira. Sharira means that it's a body, whether it's a gross body or a subtle body or a causal body. So, as I said, the threefold classification, which is a simplistic uh, version of the same classification, which divides the human personality into a gross body, subtle body, which is comprised of the mind, the subtle indriyas, prana, and all those things, and there is a causal body where the which is a storehouse of all our samskaras, all the different possibilities which are unique to each personality are as it were stored. It's like a data bank. And those samskaras which are stored, they are the causes of all our actions, all our karma that we exhibit in our day-to-day life. So that is the innermost kosha, or which is known as a karana sharira. Karana means cause. So it's a causal body, you can say in English. So the causal body is the cause of all our actions, our thoughts, everything that we do, everything that we manifest is because of the stored samskaras in the causal body. That is our storehouse, you can say, of the different possibilities that a human personality exhibits. Now, what are the relationship? Now, that is a simple classification based on the three sharira. It's a tripartite classification: sthula, that is gross body; sukshma, subtle; and the causal. But Upanishads, especially the Taittiriya Upanishad, as I said, has further classified these three bodies into five. That's a better way of classification, more scientific way. So it starts with Annamaya Sharira, which we discussed. Then we have Pranamaya. Annamaya Sharira is the physical body. Everything that is physical in our personality, the flesh, the blood, anything that is physical, including bones, the nerves, the spinal cord, everything, but including the uh, different organs of action, especially. So all these things constitute the gross body or the Annamaya Sharira, which is now we are coming to a new classification which we have discussed. I'm just recapitulating what we discussed earlier. So Annamaya Sharira is the physical body and it requires some kind of energy or some kind of vital force which is known as prana, the force which runs the physical body, which functions, all the functions of the physical body is a result of the action of prana or pranamaya sharira or pranamaya kosha on the physical body. So without that, it's just as good as a dead body. So when a person dies, we say the prana has left the sharira, the sthula sharira. The difference between a dead person and a living person is that the prana no longer functions. It functions in a subtle way. It forms part of the subtle body, but no longer does it uh, make the gross body to act. So that's why we say the persons, the Indian terminology that is used, the prana has left the body. That is the way we say a person is dead. Instead of saying the person is dead, the prana is left. As long as the prana is there, he will be still living, even though he may not be very conscious. Conscious is in the Western sense. Conscious means he is able to respond to external stimuli. But patients who are in coma, their prana has not left the body. It's still there, but conscious actions are no longer possible for that person. That is the defect of the failure of the nervous system. It's the failure of the nervous system, and that is the reason why conscious action is not performed, but all the subconscious things or the autonomous nervous system still functions. The heart beats, everything happens when a person is in a state of coma. So prana is still there. Prana has not left the body. The moment prana leaves the body, then the person, the Annamaya kosha, is known as a dead body. So the connection between pranamaya kosha and all the still subtler koshas, there are five koshas as I told you, or the five shariras, which are in arranged in the increasing level of subtlety. So Annamaya Sharira is the grossest. Pranamaya is slightly more subtle than the Annamaya Sharira. Then we have the Manomaya Kosha or the Manomaya Sharira, the mental body. The mental body which is reactive in nature. Its function is to just react to external stimuli. You have to make that distinction. That is what we discussed last time. And then there is a Vijnanamaya Mana, Vijnanamaya Kosha or Vijnanamaya Sharira, which is also a part of the mind, but it is known as the intellect, the mind which discriminates and it makes choices in life. The Manomaya Sharira just presents the external world through the organs, and then the Manomaya is, you may say, it's a simplistic term, but you can call it a reactive mind. It has action and reaction. Our action comes later. There's a reaction to external stimuli, and then that may prompt a person to use his willpower to act, to react rather than act. Acting is acting deliberately with some deliberation, with lot of thinking, is the function of the higher mind, which is known as buddhi, or the other term that is used is Vijnanamaya kosha. So it is known as Vijnanamaya Sharira. So in a person, at a very gross level, at animal level, he is he will be having a Annamaya Sharira, Annamaya Kosha, and there will be a lot of pranas, the five pranas, which help to uh, conduct all the activities of the body. That is Pranamaya Sharira. And Manomaya Sharira in a very rudimentary form. All the organs give the inputs to the Manomaya Sharira, and the Manomaya Sharira reacts. So that is as far as the animal existence is concerned. Animals do that. They react to, they do have other emotions like fear and the desire to survive and to escape from danger, and all those things are there, but they're instinctive. So you may call this reactive mind an instinctive mind. So the mind sheath or the Manomaya Sharira or Manomaya Kosha is more subtle than the Pranamaya Kosha, but subtler than that is the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Now, these three, Pranamaya Sharira, Manomaya Sharira, and Vijnanamaya Sharira, are connected to each other, which has been described by the writer or the author of Vedanta Sara. Vedanta Sara, verse number 89, we discussed briefly this fact that these three koshas, these three shariras, here we are not, we're just ignoring the physical sharira because they are not subtle. Subtle body is made of pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, and vijnanamaya kosha. And then anandamaya kosha, which is compared to the Karana Sharira. If we take the threefold classification, Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sukshma Sharira is made of these three sheets, but there is a relationship between these three sheets. Eteshu Kosheshu Madhye, among these three sheets, there are three different functions. Each kosha has a particular function of the mind. They are actually they are mind, they are part of the mental activity, but loosely speaking, in Western psychology, we'll say the power to think, cognition, the power to feel, and the power to will. So these three have been, this is the classification according to the Western psychology, but they are different aspects of the mind. The power that Icha Shakti or the willpower is one of the powers of the mind which they have recognized. And we also recognize, we call it Icha Shakti. In Western psychology, there is another. They say mind has a capacity to feel. Now, they don't make the distinction between the lower mind and the higher mind as we do. There is only one mind. And you may say there are divisions like subconscious mind, conscious mind, and all those things. Superconscious also they don't accept. Though there are a lot of phenomena which human beings exhibit, which can be termed as superconscious. There are so many things like thought reading, clairvoyance, hearing sounds, subtle sounds. There are many things which they see in our day-to-day life of exceptional people. These things are there, but they don't give an explanation. At the most, they'll say it is parapsychology. Para means that which cannot be explained by normal psychology, which deals with only three forces: the power to think or uh, power of cognition. We think, we see certain things, we interpret it. Then the power to feel. We respond when we see a certain thing, some feeling is associated with that. So that is power to feel, thinking, feeling, and willing. These are the broad classifications. But in the Indian psychology, there are many more things. They have a different way of classifying because they divide the whole subtle personality of a human being other than the body. Body is, of course, a subject of discussion for medical people who deal exclusively with the body functions. But prana has a role to play. The five pranas: digestion, then we have breathing, breath, heartbeat, and all the different forces, vital forces, five forces which we have discussed in great detail. They are responsible for carrying out the different functions of the Annamaya Kosha as long as they are connected when the person is living. Even if he is in coma, he may not consciously do those things, but the heart functions. The prana refuses to leave the body. It is, as it were, influencing the physical body to carry out the different functions. But when we ignore these functions, which medical science has explored a lot, how the prana functions. They may not call it prana, but they will call it the different forces. They will call it circulation, digestion, ingestion, and then there are so many other uh, names, so much of classification done to explain the different forces, how the heart beats, how the blood pressure is exerted, how digestion takes place, how assimilation takes place, samana, how the nervous currents flow, that is known as Vyana Vayu. We have our own classification. Vedanta has its own classification, but they are very broad. They're not very specific as we see in medical because their main concern is body and prana. But here in Vedanta, more importance is given to the other koshas, which are perhaps ignored to a large extent. In a general way, we say our mind, psychosomatic diseases. Somatic means dealing with the body and the prana, the life forces. So the mind at the most will have some impact on our body and our health. That is admitted. Medical science has to accept that. And the role, different emotions, different thoughts, and how our way of thinking, how our stress levels impact the different forces. That has been studied, but in a very rudimentary way. We are just dealing with the Manomaya Kosha. What we hardly differentiate between Manomaya Kosha and Vijnanamaya Kosha. So the connection between Vijnanamaya Kosha, why do we need a higher mind, a concept of a higher mind? Because till we reach the level, till we understand what this buddhi is, what this Vijnanamaya Kosha is, Vedanta does not, in the spiritual life, really doesn't begin. So we'll be just at the animal level, just carrying out our day-to-day activities, just as any other animal will do. But we are more skilled than animals because we react better, we can think, we can feel better, we can uh, uh, use our feelings, do some wonderful, uh, I mean, we can do some, we have compassion, so many other feelings which will help us to lead our lives in a better way than the animals. Not that they don't have feelings, they also have, but it is very rudimentary. So here, the connection between thinking, feeling, and willing, which Western psychology, they speak of these three forces, but when you discuss the human personality as koshas, manomaya kosha, or the pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, and the vijnanamaya kosha, which is the intellect or buddhi, which is a unique contribution of Indian spiritual thought to the world. Why do they distinguish between buddhi and mind? Mind is not buddhi. Manas is a lower state. It's a much lower state where, which is most of the time, it is reactive. The reactions can be guided, or the if you have more skills, you will react in a way much better way. Your physical response, your mental response, the way you handle situations, how do you maintain your calm when there is pressure situation, and all those things are functions of the Manomaya Kosha. But they said it's not just the mind, because mind itself is some kind of subtle, more subtle than the prana, but it is to be controlled by some higher faculty which they call Vijnanamaya Kosha. Now, how does Vijnanamaya Kosha control the mind and how it controls the prana and of course the body? But here they have left out the body because prana, how prana impacts the body, everybody knows. So the changes in pranamaya sharira, for example, if there is a lot of fear in the mind, so the heart palpitates, and then the heartbeat changes, the rate changes, a heartbeat rate changes, and there's so many physical phenomena you can see in the body. Medical science has studied that. The impact of emotions on our that we know. But how can we control it with the Vijnanamaya Kosha? That is the topic which we are going to discuss now. Because Vedanta Sara says, unless you understand how these three koshas function, each of these koshas is responsible for certain uh, faculties that a human being possesses. So he says, Vijnanamaya Jnana Shaktiman Kartri Rupa. That means, in Sanskrit, what it means is the intellect sheath or the Vijnanamaya Kosha is endowed with the power of knowledge. Jnana Shaktiman, its source of power is knowledge. So that is why they say knowledge is power. To do a thing rightly, you should have the right knowledge. Without right knowledge, even of our own body, we cannot help the body to function properly. We have to have some basic idea how the body functions, consciously or unconsciously. We know what works for us, what does not work for us. So the intellect, the knowledge portion of our mind is endowed, the Vijnan, it endows the Vijnanamaya Kosha with the power of knowledge, and then it is of the form of agent. Agent means it will decide the the discriminative, or you may say the discerning capacity, what to do, what not to do. That the mind, Manomaya Kosha will not tell you. Manomaya Kosha will present a thing before you, just as animals, when they see fire, they start running away. It's a reactionary mode of existence. Whereas if you use the Vijnanamay quotient or the intellect sheath or the buddhi, when it is developed, it will give you alternatives. It will allow you to make choices whether you should run, how should you run, whether how can you protect yourself, how can you defend yourself. So all those things, the the different faculties which are presenting so many facts before you. You have to choose and in a very intelligent way. That is why it is known as intellectual sheath or Vijnanamay kosha. Jnana is simple knowledge. Vijnana means specific knowledge. So we have a specific knowledge of how to react in different situations. So it's the buddhi that will tell when the buddhi is developed. It will tell you whether you should react if somebody speaks something to you. Should you get angry or should you not get angry? So the pros and cons, what will happen if I get angry? So that is what buddhi does. Buddhi tells you when to act, whether you should act or not. But it is helped by other faculties, which manomaya, it uses the manomaya kosha and the pranamaya kosha. But the boss is the Vijnanamaya kosha. Vijnanamaya kosha is by itself, it cannot. It has to give instructions, just as the general manager will give instructions to the people who are working under him, and then he gives instructions to the people who really implement those actions. So here also intellectual sheath is endowed with the power of knowledge, and he is the agent. Agent means one who makes things happen. So that ego is there. Manomai Ichha Shaktiman Karana Rupa, the mind sheath, the lower mind, which is just the Manomai Kosha, is endowed with the power of will. Now, once you have decided that this is good for me, this is not good for me, exercising is good for me, for the body, but still, mind will tell you, give you all the good suggestions. The buddhi will give you all the suggestions. But the buddhi needs a strong will, a strong mind to implement those things. So you can't say that to just by a person. That is why they say the difference between that somebody today morning there was a class they were asking me. And there's a famous Western quotation, a philosophical quotation that religion begins where philosophy ends. What is the meaning? They were asking. Religion begins where philosophy ends. That is exactly what they say. The power of knowledge is Vijnanamay Kosha gives you lot of philosophical concepts, ideas. But religion is putting those ideas into practice. So you need the power of will. It's not enough to know what Vedanta says. It is essential to know what Vedanta asks you and how it should be practiced. For that, you need willpower. Vedanta says you have to meditate. I may repeat the whole day, I may repeat, oh, it's good, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, Nididhyasana, I should meditate. But till I actually sit down, use my willpower and decide that I will meditate, it is not going, it just knowledge remains frozen in the brain, in our mind. It is of no use. That is why when philosophy ends, there are people who think philosophy, if they understand philosophy, if they are good philosophers, they think they are great human beings. No, Sri Ramakrishna showed in his own life that it's not necessary even to read, to know reading and writing to become spiritual. Because no matter how much philosophy is there in our mind, the willpower, the Ichha Shakti, the Sankalpa Shakti, we use the word, we don't use Ichha Shakti, that's a very common term used in vernacular Indian languages, but there is a Sankalpa. Sankalpa is the right word. Sankalpa means willpower. So it is the mind sheath, a strong mind. That is why they say a strong buddhi in a strong mind. Just a strong buddhi is not enough. A person may be very wise, but if he has a weak mind, that means he has a weak willpower. So constantly reacting in a positive way, the mind strengthens its will. So the will is strengthened by knowledge. by the agent which is known as Vijnanamaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha says you have to do this, you have to get up early in the morning. If you want to meditate, if you want to make spiritual progress, you have to get up. But it is known, it is very well known, hundreds of times we have read that. But when it comes to really getting up, you need a strong mind to tell you, now you have to use your will to get up. Then it gives instructions to the prana. We come pranamaya kriya shaktiman karya rupa. So now it's not just mind, the manomaya kosha. Well, you tell the manomaya kosha, you have a very strong will, but still that manomaya kosha has to push the prana, because that is why they say, Jesus said in the Bible, especially he was saying that religion should be practiced when you are young. So there is a biblical saying which says, uh, the the spirit is strong, but the flesh is weak. That means the willpower is strong, will is strong, but the prana is weak. When you age, what happens is not only the body, but the powers which run the body also become weak. You don't have that Udana Vayu, Udana Vayu, for example, which enables you to jump. So if you see the younger children, they can jump. Whereas as you grow older, both the body and the mind become a bit weak. So the mind is strong, the spirit is strong. When they say spirit, it means the mind and the buddhi. Spirit is strong. We have a very strong spirit, very strong positive attitude, but the flesh is weak. So that is why all the religious people, they say whatever you have to do, do when your body is still strong. You need a very strong body and a strong mind to even use the buddhi. That is why we find Sri Ramakrishna used to encourage these people, the disciples, when they were young, that this is the time to practice spirituality, because your mind, your intentions will be very good. When you grow up, your buddhi will also may increase. But unless it is supported by the manomaya kosha, ichha shaktiman karana rupa, they become the reason. First, the will is to be strengthened by strengthening the mind. Then the prana has to be strengthened by the power of activity. So we do it externally by going to the gym, by going to the doing various exercises of the body. That's one way of strengthening the prana. But on the other side, it is the manomaya kosha, the willpower, which also is necessary. You can't just, by just doing physical exercise, you can't strengthen the pranamaya sharira. It has to be dealt with from both sides. From the body side, maybe you go to the gym, eat good food, and make your prana very strong. That is one way how people keep themselves fit even at an older age. But at the same time, the mind has to be strong. Of course, without a willpower, people will not even go to the gym. To go to the gym, to do exercises, uh, uh, not to follow the path of least resistance, not to be lazy, that requires a mental strength. So, how they are connected? First is the power of knowledge, which tells you what to do, what not to do. Then the mental sheath is endowed with the power of will, which is the form of a karana rupa, means it becomes the instrument to tell the prana now that you have to act. It is endowed with the power of activity. So among the sheaths, it is the intelligent sheath which is possessed of the power of cognition, that is Vijnanamaya Kosha. Mental sheath, Manomaya Kosha, possessed of power of volition, willpower. So this is how they have distinguished the subtle body into three koshas, one acting upon the other. And when they act upon each other in a very harmonious way, we explore more and more human possibilities. So Vedanta is nothing but exploring the possibilities which we have but which we have not explored. Maybe we have explored the buddhi. The buddhi is very good, very strong, very nice, but it is not supported by a strong mind. That is why the classic example that is given in the Kathopanishad, body is compared to a chariot. Shariram rathamevacha. Shariram is like a ratha. It is like a chariot. Now, in that chariot, The chariot may be very strong, one may have a very good physical body. But what are the other things? It requires the mind, a strong buddhi, and it requires strong senses, which are part of the body, but which are run by the prana. So, what are all these things? So, they say the mind is like the reins of the horses, are like the different sense organs. They must be very strong. Not only the chariot, a very good chariot with weak horses will not run properly. So, to control the horses, you need very strong reins. So, if you go from gross to subtle, we start with the chariot. A very good chariot is a very good body. A very good indriyas, they are like the horses, very good sense organs that give, and the prana also. They are compared to the horses. But to control these horses, you need reins, which are very strong. Even if the driver is strong, one who runs, one who conducts the chariot, or one who drives the chariot, he may be strong, but if the reins are weak, the mind is weak, it will snap and all his skills will be wasted. So horses are strong, the chariot is strong, but the reins, manaha pragraha mevacha. Mana is like the strong reins which are in the hands of a strong person, buddhi. The strong driver or the strong uh, charioteer is compared to the buddhi. So a strong buddhi is not enough. Strong buddhi, which is endowed with the power of knowledge, who knows how to drive the vehicle or drive the chariot, should be endowed, should have a strong mind, which is the human personality, should have a strong mind, which is endowed with a lot of willpower, which that means the brain should be strong. And then the horses, and then the vital chi, the power of activity, that is the horses. The horses should run, they should run, they also should be strong. So these are the three things, how the intelligent sheath or Vijnanamaya Kosha, will come to the Anandamaya Kosha later on. Vijnanamaya Kosha acts upon the other two koshas, how they are connected. So once we have knowledge of that, we go to the higher functions. Vijnanamaya Kosha, one of the function is to deal with the lower uh, koshas. Another function is it has its own inherent quality which are necessary for understanding or realizing the truths of Vedanta or spirituality. The intelligent sheath, Shankara says, the Vijnanamaya, it gives a very graphic description of what is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is popularly known as Buddhi, and how that Buddhi is to be developed, and what are its functions. So when you say a person is has a very strong Vijnanamaya Kosha, not just a strong body, a strong mind, and a strong prana. Apart from that, he has a strong buddhi. What does it really mean? He gives a graphic description of the Vijnanamaya Kosha. He says the buddhi or the cognitive mind with all its modifications. I discussed this also. What are the modifications of the buddhi? One is ego. The ego. Ego is very important because if there is no ego, then it cannot do sadhana, it cannot do anything, to do any activity. Even to perform spiritual practices, ego is necessary. Not the raw ego, as Sri Ramakrishna made a clear distinction. Raw ego is stubbornness. Ego which tells you, which tries to convince yourself and convince others that you are great without really being great. So that is stubbornness. That is not ego. Ego is self-confidence. The self-confidence that you know, I can do this, I can control my mind, I can control my senses, I can control my body, everything. That ego is known as ripe ego or pakami, as Sri Ramakrishna in his very simple way he said. So he's speaking of that modification. Both ripe and raw ego. If the mind, if the buddhi is weak, then he will have a raw ego or a negative ego, which is harmful. But a positive ego is nothing but self-confidence, belief or self-belief. All those things are a result of a strong ego. Deliberation, one of the Modification is deliberation, means to make choices, to decide what is right, what is wrong, not just follow the mind. Mind will give lot of wrong suggestions. It is that is why they say an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So there's no devil coming from outside. It's our own mind, part of our mind which bubbles up silly thoughts, and it acts the for the it acts as if those thoughts are devilish in nature. So if you don't allow the mind to be idle, that is why Holy Mother Sharda Devi used to say, just keep doing some work, at least if you, as long as you are physically strong, keep on doing some work, some positive activity. The moment you sit and start thinking, idleness in a negative way. When you are meditate, apparently you are also idle in physically, but mentally you are still active, very active. In fact, meditation is more difficult than being physically active. But idleness can give rise to this, can stop or can reduce the function of deliberation, what to think, what not to think. You are just a slave of your thoughts. The devil will think for you. You will not think for yourself. The thoughts just come, and then you complain saying that why these thoughts are coming. Because you have made your mind itself as a devil's workshop. Because the devils are there. In the first place, they were there because of a wrong thinking, and they refused to go away from the mind. They are in a subtle corner, as samskara is always trying to bubble up. So the only way is have counter positive thoughts or engage yourself in positive things so that they don't come and they don't create a devil's workshop in your mind. But with the positive ego, a positive viveka, which is deliberation, it means viveka, to know, to decide what is right, what is wrong. Then determination. Once you have decided, made the choice, then you have to stick to that choice. So that is known as determination, sankalpa. Then you have to use your will that, oh, this is good, so I will do it. This is good, but I can't do it. That is the main problem in mind training. Swami Vivekananda said, every child is told what is good, what is bad. But the problem with the child is not what is good, what is bad. He knows everything. But he will ask the question, how do I convince my mind to do the good and not to do the bad? Knowingly we do bad, knowingly we do what is not good. So the problem is because our mind is not strong, the willpower is not strong. So there is this ego, positive ego is there, deliberation is there, you know what is good, what is bad. But determination, the third faculty of the mind, of the buddhi, is not working properly. Having understood what is good, what is bad, not to follow, not to have a determined effort, a sankalpa that I will do it. And the fourth important function which our Indian psychology gives, which Western psychology doesn't give so much importance. Other than passing the exams, nobody talks of memory power. But in Indian psychology or Indian philosophy, Vedanta, the main power, apart from the discrimination, after knowing what is right, what is wrong, is the recollection. It is known as it is smriti. So, Shravana, Manana, Nidhi, Dhyasana. Shravana means to listen to good thoughts. Manana means to think, deliberate. And then Nidhi, Dhyasana, to again and again recollect. So, all our spiritual practices, like japa, especially japa is one of the greatest discoveries made by our Indian uh, spiritual masters, because they said this is a simple way of recollecting, because it is only the smritis that will save you. So no matter whether you understand the meaning, your cognition is good, not, simply by recollection. The Smriti Shakti, if it is there, which is a part of our buddhi. So by constant repetition, your buddhi has become strong. So buddhi has become strong first by a positive ego, self-confidence, self-belief. Second is proper thinking, rational thinking, deliberation. Then determination, making a sankalpa. After having made a sankalpa, repeating, making it a smriti, because it is the smriti alone. Swamiji says, all we are is a force of, all we are is a result of our habits. We are what our habits are. Our habits determine what we are. So smriti becomes so important. If you are, that's why they say somebody who commits once in a while commits a crime, you don't call him a habitual offender. When you say a person is a habitual offender, that means he again and again his crime has become a habit with him, or stealing has become a habit with him. It is the power of smriti used in a negative way or manifesting in a negative way is responsible for what we are. It is as simple as that. So in Karma Yoga, Swami Vivekananda says by changing the smriti, by changing the habits, you change yourself. It appears to be a very simple advice. That is why when people are told to develop good habits, good discipline, the children rebel. They want creativity. They think it is creativity to do what we like. But to do a thing persistently again and again, forming a habit, that is the only way you build your character. Spirituality is only repeated habits. Repeated habits result in character. That is one of the greatest ideas Swami Vivekananda gives in his Karma Yoga. He says, there is nothing else in our life other than our habits. It is habits that determine who we are and what we will be in the future, who we are right now. And it's our habits again which have been responsible for what we did in the past. So he says if habits can make you weak, can make you evil, the same good habits can make you do good things. So that is why they say you have to go on. Once the sankalpa is there, once the perception is, once the ego, then the discrimination is there, a strong confident will or a strong self-confident person when he deliberates, thinks all the pros and cons and then decides, then he uses his sankalpa and then he strengthens his will by repeated habits. That is why they do parayana and they do, okay, I'll do 10,000 repetition. People think, oh, what is there? Why not read different books and exhibit your knowledge? Why do the same mantra again and again? The only reason is that is the only way you can awaken the buddhi. That is why they say mantra chaitanya, or the mantra, the repetition of the mantra reveals the power of the mantra because of its repetition. The power comes only through repetition. It is like it is simple. On an anvil, if you want to cut something, you go on hammering it till it breaks. One or two strokes will not break the object. You have to go on persistently hitting it till it becomes so weak that it will one day break. So also these four characteristics, they have the four characteristics and they form the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And that is what transmigrates when you die. So your habits transmigrate, your buddhi transmigrates. Your manas may not, all prana also will not transmigrate. Because the prana was necessary when you had a body. When you die, you don't need many of the pranas. You don't have a heart. Why do you need the prana which was responsible for beating of the heart? So most of the pranas they get merged into the universal prana when the body dies, and the physical elements will either be burnt or get become part of the soil or part of the gross things of the universe. But even in the prana, many things will be left behind. So many of our pranas, only a little prana udana vayu they say, which is necessary for taking the soul forward to get a new body, is used. All the other pranas, all the other energies that were developed in the body, along with the body, because they are not no longer needed, they will all disperse. Energy will be dispersed. But what is regained, what is retained, What causes that man's transmigration is the Vijnanamaya kosha. So if you have developed a buddhi by repeated spiritual practice, the first three, even manas will go. Prana will definitely go. Even the manas will go because manas depends on external stimuli. What you see, what you hear, what you taste, but the body is not there. So mind just disintegrates. So our mind, which we have now, don't think you can take it. It is just like living behind money. We earn a lot of money, a lot of property. When along with the body, the gross things also are left behind. Even the prana is left behind. Even the mana is left behind. That is what Shankaracharya says. Major portion of the mind is left behind because it is a reactive mind. Only that portion of the mind which has been developed into buddhi transmigrates. So it is the Vijnanamaya kosha and the Anandamaya kosha which goes. Anandamaya kosha because it is the receptacle of all your repeated actions, your samskaras, all the sum total of whatever you have done has been stored. It is like the heart of the computer. The whole hardware may be thrown away, but if the data is okay, you take it, put it in another computer, you start from where you left. That is the question which is asked by Arjuna because he was gross in his approach. He knew how to collect money, how to defeat other people, how to grab property, how to defeat and expand your empire. So the idea for most of the gross people, when they deal with the first three koshas, Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, and Manomaya kosha, which we share with animals, when we restrict our life or restrict our life to these three koshas, then the question may come, just as the question comes, what will happen after I die? What will happen to my property? What will happen to my car? Who will take it? All these worries come because you know you can't take it. So also the prana. If you go deeper, many of the pranas, all the exercises that you did, they are useful when you have a body. When the body goes away, you don't need proper prana to blow the lungs because there are no lungs at all. They have been burnt. The body has been burnt. So we don't need many of the pranas. That also you will keep it behind. Just as you keep behind money, you keep behind your bank balances, keep behind your houses, properties, and all the physical body, you also keep majority of the prana, it doesn't go um, with the soul, with the when transmigration takes. Then what goes? Does the mana go? Even that doesn't go because the mana has gone with the prana. Mana is active only when the prana, when it has a body. So mind controls the prana, which controls the body. Now the body is not there. Half or 99% of the manas also goes away. A little may remain. I'll tell you why. What remains? That portion which is attached to the buddhi will remain. The tendencies of the human mind. So you are born with those tendencies. You may not remember. The idea is why don't we remember our past? Because most of the memory is stored in the manas, which has disintegrated. So all that you may call in the computer, there is this short-term memory and there's long-term memory in the hard disk. Short-term memory, when suddenly there is a breakdown, everything goes away. What is there in the RAM memory, as they call it? Those things go away because you don't need it. The body is not there. So you don't need many of the different things that you did, many of the training that you gave to the prana, the training that you gave to your mind, the greatest skills also will go. What the IT skills, the physical skills, the mental skills, all the education that we have, skill education, it is a skill education. It is not education of the buddhi. It has impacted only the mind. And along with the body, that skill education also vanishes. So that is why he says, but what you have stored in the Vijnanamaya kosha and the Anandamaya kosha transmigrates. So this is a very important, what really matters in our life, as Arjuna asked Krishna, Okay, just as I trained myself in warfare and all, everything will, he knows. At least he had that much buddhi to know that everything will go if I die. All my talent will go in one stroke. All the hard work I did, the strong body, everything will go. Prana will go, everything will go. And the skill also will go along with. But you say the spiritual thoughts, the smriti, this development of the buddhi, will it not vanish along with the other thing? That is a very pertinent question Arjuna asked, because he doesn't want to do something which he has to. At least now he has become wise uh, to know that all the things that are perishable will have to be left behind when the body dies. But his main question to Krishna was, suppose I do spiritual practices according to you, I do all the instructions that he gave in the second chapter. Suppose I do, and still I die, or I die when before I complete my sadhana. What will happen? He says no. He says that is the difference. Whatever you have invested, in the bank also they say up to 80,000 or something, 85,000 will be saved. All other things will go. Similarly, whatever you have invested in the development of buddhi will remain. That is your surety. So Arjuna has to be told by Krishna that don't worry, you will continue from where you left. At least you have 85,000 pounds to start your. You might lose all the other things, but 85 they guarantee. It's something similar to that. That uh, the the time you have invested or time you have spent in the development of the Vijnanamay Kosha, it is not only the cause of your transmigration. He says, Suchinam Srimatam Gehe. You might be born in a very rich family where you don't have to bother about earning and you can easily continue your spiritual practices. Not that poor people cannot, but poor people, the poverty, they're earning a living itself takes so much time. Whereas it was very easy for Siddhartha, he could easily give up. He was born in a very rich family, he never had to bother about earning. So, in a way, Srimatam means not only rich by way of having lot of money, but also with good noble qualities. That is also Srimatam. Sri means possessed with noble qualities, or you will be born in the family of yogis. So, Krishna's answer to Arjuna's question that if I die when I am still when I have just developed my buddhi and I'm not completed, I've not reached the goal, what will happen to me? Like all the other things I leave behind, will I also all this buddhi also? He says no, buddhi will go. That will transmigrate. So this intelligent sheath transmigrate. So the intelligent sheath or the Vijnanamay Kosha, which is attended with the power of reflection of consciousness. See, mind you, the intelligent sheath does not have consciousness of its own. The light of consciousness, which is pure consciousness, is reflected. But it is reflected more in the buddhi than manas and the body. It is also reflected in the body. It is reflected in the pranamaya kosha also. But the reflection is very, very less. The highest reflection is in the buddhi. That is why when you meditate in the heart, you're always asked to think of an effulgent. Whatever idea of effulgence we have, Ishta should be effulgent. He can be, suppose you are meditating on your Ishta, Krishna or Rama or any other god. It is not enough if you just think of that form. The form should be effulgent. Because the light of consciousness, effulgence actually means the light of consciousness. You have to consciously meditate on a living being in your heart, which is the seat of buddhi. So that's what they say. The intelligent sheath, which is attended with the power of reflection of consciousness, which we symbolically represent with a illumined personality, a Ishta which is bright, shining, which is shedding, removing all my doubts, the light of knowledge. Knowledge is always compared to light. When there is darkness of ignorance, we need the light of knowledge. So it's not physical light, but it is a it is a reflection of consciousness on Prakriti, because our buddhi is also part of Prakriti. Anything that is not Brahman or anything that is not Pure consciousness is there is Purusha and Prakriti. Prakriti is everything, the physical body, the energy, the mind, the mental thoughts, even they are part of Prakriti. Manas also is Prakriti. Buddhi is also Prakriti. But the difference is Buddhi is so near to Purusha that Prakriti takes a effulgent form. It is much more better to stay at the level of Buddhi because that entity, that part of our personality, we will retain. So, whatever you have invested in developing, the other things will have to be left behind. When you take up a new body, you have to start from everything again. To start from kindergarten, go to school, develop your intellect. The whole body has to be trained. That is why there's a funny joke about one of our very senior Swamis who was told that, why are you so keen to realize in this life itself? Take your time. He says, no, 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 I don't want to spend time going to school again. He was joking, of course, because he will take a lot of time. And in one of the scriptures, very strange, Valmiki says, when Valmiki Ramayana, it is there. I was surprised. Till 14th, you don't have your karma is your parents' karma. The parents will be responsible for whatever the children do up to 14. After that, your ego takes the responsibility of your own karma. So 14 years is lost almost. So if you are lucky and you have good surroundings and good parents, your their good karma will help you to go ahead. Otherwise, from 14 onwards, 14 or 12, that is the age they have given. It may not be exact age, but it gives you an idea to show that the intellect you can use. You are not born, you are born within it, but it has to have a proper instrument to manifest. That is why you find these geniuses, spiritual geniuses at a very young age, like Ramakrishna. At the age of 5, he had samadhi. Why? Because that sukshma sharira, which transmigrate, of course, in his case, it was not transmigration. He willingly was born. That is a different topic altogether. But great souls, when they are born with this highly developed buddhi, which they have inherited from the previous life. That is why they show promise when they are very young. They are attracted to spirituality. The moment they are attracted, they go after it. Because that is the only portion of their personality of the previous life they have not lost. They have lost a very good body if they were healthy and they died in an accident. They might have lost a very nice prana, very well developed. They might have gone to the gym, might have had a very, but everything they have left behind. Now they have to again be born, be helpless till the mother uh, feeds the child and the child grows, and after the age of 12, 13, 14, it starts or accumulating good karma or bad karma, whatever uh, destiny has decided for that person. So that personality gets a chance. So there is a huge gap, and there is no guarantee that they say that the person who dies takes up a body immediately. Transmigration is there might be a huge queue to get the right body. So there's no guarantee that I die and start my sadhana. So it is better. That's why they say Manushatvam, Mumukshutvam, Mahapurusha Sanshaya. If you have got this body and the desire for liberation, don't waste time. Finish it in this life. Who knows what body you will get in the next? You may be born in a place where you cannot do sadhana. We don't know what exactly. Of course, that will depend on the karma. But at least Krishna has assured Arjuna that you will be born in a family of yogis if you have sincerely done spiritual practices. Because your buddhi, though temporarily it was searching for a good manas, good body, good prana, but after it gets, then it starts developing. It starts from where it left. That's the advantage. So, the intelligent shift attained by power of reflection of consciousness is a modification of Prakriti, but still it is part of Prakriti. It is not pure consciousness. And it's possessed of two powers, the power of knowledge and the power of action, and continually identifies itself with the body, organs, the mind, and other things. As when it is imprisoned, it will again, it because it is part of Prakriti. So Prakriti has sort of has her clutches. We call Prakriti as feminine actually, Purusha and Prakriti. Prakriti is like, mm, it is, though it is inert, the Purusha or the consciousness, conscious principles animates it and tries to make it gravitate towards more and more gross. So when a person becomes dull, he is more gross, has more of Prakriti and less reflection of Purusha or the pure consciousness. As he grows spiritually, there is more of reflection of the consciousness, and you say that person has evolved spiritually. So the first target in our uh, spiritual life, in the development of our personality, is to reach the level of buddhi using all these techniques, smriti, viveka, then developing sankalpa, willpower, and with all these things, we reach the level of buddhi, and with that buddhi, you are well equipped. Whether you transmigrate, when you die, we don't have any uh, idea what is going to happen. That will all depend on the karma. But at least you can be sure that a developed buddhi, today or tomorrow, it will take you further after you get the body. That is the what transmigrates. So this is the jiva, the with the covering of buddhi, though it is part of prakriti, which has no beginning, which is characterized by egoism. The moment you get an ego, it starts. It says, "Oh, this is me," which functions in countless ways on relative plane, as a good person, as a bad person. Owing to the impressions of the previous incarnations, it performs good and evil deeds and experiences their results. So it's a play of Prakriti, no doubt, but the proximity of the Purusha and the development of the Buddhi gives it the capacity to improve the uh, human possibility. That is why Vedanta is called the science of human possibilities. We might have explored the physical possibilities, the pranic possibilities, the mental possibilities, our skill sets, but till we really go to the level of buddhi and explore it, not only explore it, we have to uh, intensify our efforts to have a very strong buddhi. Then we are safe because as we transmigrate, as and when we transmigrate, when you have to leave this body, we have a start to make, and we carry our sadhana according to the development or the progress that we have made in the previous life. So that is how it says the jiva migrates from one body to another with all the ego and all the different impressions, which will come to in the next class, where Anandamay Kosha or the innermost kosha, which is even more subtle than the Buddhi, Vijnanamay Kosha, where our subtle impressions, which are known as tendencies, we can call it tendencies, impressions, or the different possibilities which make us great or which make us evil, everything is stored in that Anandamay Kosha. So, how important it is, the fifth kosha, after understanding the importance of buddhi, after the awakening of the buddhi, you can try to find out what that Anandamay kosha, which is nearest to the pure conscious principle known as Purusha, and is the highest form of manifestation of Prakriti. What that Anandamay kosha does, we'll discuss in the next class. Huh? Time is over, na?
Perhaps you can.
Yeah, 5 minutes you can ask if there is some question.
Yeah, any questions?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, Swami, you talk about the mind. What about the heart? Where does the heart come in?
Yeah, heart is buddhi actually. I'm not talking of the physical heart.
Mhm.
Heart is loosely translated as buddhi, the seat of buddhi. So when you say heart, it is not just, it is the center of emotions, refined emotions. So as I told you, the prayer of the heart, that is the prayer of intuition, the intuition and all those things. The higher faculty of the buddhi is what is meant by the spiritual heart. Now, I'm not talking of the physical heart at all. That has a different function. that she deals with in the hospital.
Uh, so Prabhuji, when we talk about Bhakti Yoga and say Japa meditation on Krishna, which of the five koshas do you think are
All,
impacted the most?
all are impacted because when you do karma yoga, also of course it's relative, but the overall personality changes.
Hmm.
So that is why they say a person who performs spiritual practice, even his tanu means body, becomes Bhagavati tanu. It's a
Hmm.
holy body. That is why they consider the sacred body of great people, they even preserve the ashes. They're not like anybody else's relics, bones and all, because their body is also impacted because of a highly refined buddhi, highly refined mind, a pure prana, then it's definitely that purity is transmitted to the body as well. So it impacts all the five. You can't talk of anything in isolation. But the only thing is the relative importance you have to understand. Body is not that important because you will get another one. But what continues from birth to birth is your third level onwards, fourth level, Vijnanamaya kosha.
Right.
That kosha is more important, and spiritual life means dealing mostly on uh, spiritual life. In fact, begins
Hmm.
when you touch the spiritual heart. As you said, the spiritual heart has to be awakened. Whether you call it awakening of the heart or yeah.
As we said, the spiritual heart is actually not the physical heart.
Mm.
So because when we are told when we take Diksha that when you're doing japa, you keep your
Meditate on your,
Nishta
yeah,
in
in
your
the
heart.
heart, yes.
So is that what it
Yeah,
means?
that is the
you
spiritual
use your
heart.
buddhi at that time?
Yeah, buddhi. It is actually spiritual heart, for lack of a better word. The word heart is used because there is a lot of confusion. There is
What
nothing
is
to do.
what is the word in Sanskrit or in Bengali?
Bengali, Sanskrit, it's the heart only. Hriday. I mean, Hriday, they say, the thing is, you see, how the word Hriday is, it's not, definitely not the physical heart,
Yes,
which
yes.
is on the left, which pumps. It is just a part of the body, isn't it? It has nothing to do with the spiritual heart.
Question.
Yeah, yeah. Please remind me what the features, manifestations of buddhi are again. Okay. Yes. It will take some time. I don't know whether we have time. We'll discuss, we will recapitulate. I said the buddhi has four functions, which just now we read. Uh, 1 minute, I'll just discuss it. It is part of Shankaracharya's explanation in Vivek Chudamani 184, 184 to 188. These four verses, if you read, you can Google and find out. It's known as Vivek Chudamani. So there he is giving the graphic description of the Vijnanamaya Kosha or intelligent sheath. He says Buddhi has four modifications: an egoism, that is ahankara; deliberation, that is viveka. Viveka means to distinguish between good and bad, to make right choices, to know what is good, what is bad. Then we determination, sankalpa, to determine that this is good and I have to do it. But still, uh, to do that, you need another important faculty, which is recollection, smriti. So smriti, ichha shakti, or sankalpa, smriti, and then buddhi, and then deliberation, viveka. Yeah, so if you want the Sanskrit words, it is easy to remember. One is ahankara. Ahankara means not in the negative sense, the positive ahankara. Then we have deliberation, viveka. Viveka means to distinguish between real and unreal, or what is more permanent and what is less permanent. Determination, that is sankalpa. So before any puja, anything, you have to make a sankalpa. That means I'm not going to leave it halfway. If I start something, I have to finish it. That is known as sankalpa. So it's a determination. And then to attain that, you have smriti, recollection. So the easiest way to strengthen sankalpa, to strengthen once you have this deliberation and a right positive frame of mind, and also sankalpa. Then through recollection, you strengthen the will. So mantra shakti or the buddhi is awakened, which is a higher faculty, through the repetition. That is why Holy Mother said Japat Siddhi. So the easiest way was discovered by Indian psychologists, that you just go on repeating, because it is only the repetition. Just by repeating, your smriti becomes permanent. Because without a strong smriti, strong memory, you will fail. For any success, you need a strong memory. If you know everything and say, well, in the examination hall, when I go and I don't remember, if your smriti fails you, then your knowledge is not of any use. So also the smriti of these shastras, that is why they say you have to do nididhyasana. It is not enough to understand. I have understood Vedanta Sara, I have understood all the YouTube talks, wonderful talks, everything I understand. But I don't have a memory of that. When problems come, all those verses, Upanishads, everything vanishes. Then you look for simple, trivial solutions for your problems. If it was a smriti, if you are constantly reminded yourself that this japa is going to help me, this japa is going to help me, and they have repeated millions of times, for them they get supreme confidence. They get all the other qualities of buddhi which are mentioned here. They have the determination, they have the deliberation. That is why Holy Mother said the simplest way is increase your smriti. Japat siddhi. Japa means smriti, recollection. Recollecting. It is known as the prayer of the heart in the Christian tradition. They also do prayer. They may not call it japa, but they call constant, unceasing prayer of the heart. So to make a deep impression, you need a unceasing prayer of the heart. That's the idea. Okay.
That is 181 to 180.
184 to 188. Vivek Chudamani. You can see it's a long. I mean, 4 verses will describe all these things. What forms the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is also known as Buddhi or the spiritual heart. Okay, shall we conclude? Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat.